It's time for a spelling analysis. All right, are you ready? The first word is dinner. What time is dinner tonight? Dinner. Go ahead and say dinner. How many syllables in dinner? Two. We will say to spell din-ner. What will we say to spell? Din-ner. Let's sound it out. The first syllable is din. D-I-N. The second syllable is ner. N-er. Use the of her. Go ahead and write din-ner. Sound it out as you write it. Din-ner. Excellent. Now help me to write it. The first syllable is din. D-I-N. The second syllable is ner. N-er. And how will we mark it? We'll underline the Let's read it. D-I-N-N-er. Dinner. The next word is breakfast. I had cereal for breakfast. Breakfast. Go ahead and say breakfast. How many syllables in breakfast? Two. We will say to spell break-fast. What will we say to spell? Break-fast. All right, let's sound it out. The first syllable is break. B-er-e. Use an E-A. K. Use a tall K. The second syllable is fast. F-a-s-t. Go ahead and write break-fast. Sounding it out as you write it. Good. Now help me write it. The first syllable is break. B-er-e-k. The second syllable is fast. F-a-s-t. All right, let's mark it. How do you mark this word? You'll underline the e. And what sound of E-E-A is it? It's the second. Now, before I mark the second sound, I want to look at this word a little bit closer. So breakfast is the first meal of the day. And if you take off this part and you just look at fast, this is a compound word. To fast means to go without eating. What do you do all night when you're sleeping? Are you eating and sleeping? No, you are fasting. You are going without food. Well, breakfast actually breaks your fast. It's the first time you eat after a fast, which is a time of not eating. Let's look at this. Can this say break? B-er-a. That would be an E-A. That's right. That's the long A sound. But when we turn it into the meal, breakfast, we use E-E. Does that make sense? We use the second sound. If it's saying break, it uses the third sound. This is what's so cool about English spelling. It's a balance between sounds and meaning. So when someone decided how to write the word break, they knew that they would use it in breakfast, and they'd know they needed to use the phonogram that said E, and A. That's pretty cool. So that hopefully can help you remember how to spell break and how to spell breakfast. All right, the next word is supper. What is for supper? Supper. Go ahead and say supper. How many syllables? Two. We will say to spell sup-per. What will we say to spell? Sup-per. Let's sound it out. The first syllable is sup. S-up. The second syllable is per. P-er. The of her. Go ahead and write sup-per. Sound it out as you write it. Good. And now help me to write it. The first syllable is sup. S-up. The second syllable is per. P-er. And how will we mark it? We'll underline the Let's read it. S-up-er. Supper. The next word is fairy. The fairy godmother granted me a wish. Fairy. Go ahead and say fairy. How many syllables in fairy? Two. We will say to spell fair-e. What will we say to spell? Fair-e. Let's sound it out. The first syllable is fair. A, two-letter A that you may not use at the end of English words. The second syllable is E. E. using I, E. Go ahead and write fair, E. Good, and now help me to write it. The first syllable is fair, A, The second syllable is E, E. How will we mark it? We'll underline the A. And which sound of I, E do you hear? The fourth. That's right, it's saying it's E sound at the end of a multi-syllable word. Let's read it. E, fairy. The next word is tail. He told me a fairy tale. Tale, that's a story. Go ahead and say tail. Let's sound it out. Tail. T-A-L, silent final E. Go ahead and write tail. Good, and now help me to write it. T-A-L, silent final E. Why do we have a silent final E in tail? You're right, the vowel says it's long sound because of the E. Let's read it. T-A-L, tail. The next word is bought. He bought a new bicycle. Bought. Go ahead and say bought. Let's sound it out. B-A. That's right. A-O-U, ow, off, off. T. Bought. Go ahead and write bought. And now help me to write it. B-A-T. And how do we mark it? We'll underline the ah. And what sound of A-O-U, ow, off, off do we hear? That's right, the first sound. Let's read it. B-A-T, bought. The next word is sneeze. When I sneeze, I always sneeze 3 times. Sneeze. Achoo. Sneeze. Go ahead and say sneeze. All right, let's sound it out. S-N-E, E-double-E, Z. That's the phonogram that only says Z. Silent final E. Go ahead and write sneeze. Good. And help me write it. S-N-E-Z, silent final E. All right, how do we mark it? We'll underline the E. And why do we have the silent final E in sneeze? You're right, it's an unseen reason. Let's read it. S-N-E-Z, sneeze. The last word is least. Which glass has the least amount of ice? Least. Go ahead and say least. And let's sound it out. O-E, use an E at A, S-T. Go ahead and write least. Good, sounding it out. And help me to write it. O-E-S-T. And how will we mark it? We'll underline the E. Let's read it. O-E-S-T, least. Great work today.
Combining the science of reading with the joy of learning. Learn more at foundations.logicofenglish.com.